Welcome to Distress to Joyful, Bailey's Way. I'm your host, Bailey Raber, here to enlighten you and the rest of the world about one of the most misunderstood mental health disorders out there, bipolar disorder. In each episode, we'll learn more about my personal journey with bipolar 2 disorder, how I've struggled with it, and how I've learned to overcome those struggles. Together, we'll laugh, we'll cry, and most importantly, we'll have fun. You'll leave each episode feeling hopeful and stocked full of useful information on how you can better yourself and the world around you. Hello, friends. So, for announcements, I have a really good one today that I'm super excited about. My new meds are working. So, if you have been keeping up with me on social media, most specifically like Instagram or Facebook, Distress to Joyful _ Bailey's Way, then you know what I'm talking about. I have been in a never ending depressive episode, you guys, since Good Friday back in April. Literally that long until about a week ago is when it finally started to lift. But that's because, like I said, my psychiatrist put me on some new meds. So, with that, like, to be honest, so I'm not going to tell you what the meds are, obviously, but they are an antipsychotic, which I don't know how I feel about that. I really don't, because I've only been on mood stablers my entire time that I've been diagnosed bipolar 2. So, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, but I do know that they're working, and that's all that really matters. Another thing, this depressive episode, guys, from April until July. So what, April, May, June, almost 3 whole months, which Monish said that that's the longest he's ever seen me in a depressive episode. So that's bad. That's really bad because ever since 2019 when I did the, 180 flip my life around, went from distress to now joyful, I really haven't had that long of a depressive episode, usually a month max. But I could still do my everyday stuff. I could still get up and do my routines and like the things that I needed to do, but that would be it. This time around, these past 3 months, I was barely able to get out of bed some days. Some days I couldn't shower or I could barely force myself to eat. Like it was really, really bad. And my therapist and I think that that has a lot to do with the EMDR therapy that I'm going through, which again, I promise more of that will come very, very soon. Just hang on to the end of this episode and you're going to find out when, I promise. But with it being such an intense therapy where I'm going back and like having to think about old memories, she and I both think that that kind of triggered the depressive episode and what's kept it here for so long. And it's totally sucked. I've hated it. It's been a horrible 3 months. And Moni and I have been engaged this entire time. Like we barely got engaged right before this whole episode even happened. And so that's also been really hard for me is to sit there and be like, this should be one of the happiest times of my life. And I'm fucking stuck on the couch depressed. Like that it's been hard to wrap my head around. It has. And another thing with depression that really fucking sucks. And those of you who have struggled with depression also, I'm sure you're 1000% going to agree with me when I say the thing that sucks the most about it is when I feel like I want to do something, but I just can't. Like a couple weeks ago, I wanted to get up and I wanted to sew and I wanted to start working on a dress for myself. And I wanted to do it so bad, y'all. I was watching something on TV that inspired me and I wanted to get up and do this. But fuck, I did not have enough energy to do it. I didn't. So I just laid there and kept watching TV for the rest of the day because that's all I could do. And that sucks. That sucks when you want to do something, but you just physically can't. And so, yes, it is a lot different than those with, physical disabilities who may experience the want to do something but can't. This is definitely different, but it does have kind of the same feelings associated where you really want to do something, but you just fucking can't. And that sucks. And me being an Enneagram 8, I like to do things when I want to do them. And if I want to do this now, I'm going to do this now. So you can see how this is even more of an issue with someone with a personality like mine, where I really want to fucking do this and I can't. And it becomes a source of irritability, anger, whatever. It brings up other emotions that are just shitty and not fun to deal with. So, but yeah, so that's a good thing. That's an announcement that I wanted to share with you guys. Also, I don't know if this counts or constitutes as an announcement, but if you guys are not already watching on YouTube, which I'm sure you're fucking tired, I'm sure you're fucking tired of hearing that by now. But if you're not already, dude, just go subscribe. Even if you're not going to watch the full length episodes, I am so proud of myself, y'all. I just started up my YouTube channel back in, I think, November, maybe December. And only a couple episodes from the end of last season are on there. But I've been very consistent with uploading videos and YouTube shorts, and I'm just really excited and proud of myself because I'm seeing an incline. I'm seeing more views and more subscribers, and it's just really, really cool to watch something that I built grow. Like, it's so cool. And I do want to give a quick shout out to my friend Gabe. His Instagram is Colorless Gabe. He designed my logo that's for my YouTube. That is also the new logo for my website that I'm still working on updating. And I just want to give him a personal thank you for that on here on the show because it looks amazing, y'all. It looks so amazing. So even if you're not planning to watch these episodes on YouTube, just go be a friend and subscribe and also check out my logo because Gabe did a phenomenal job. And again, if you've been listening to the podcast, regularly, you might see some aspects of this podcast, like this season 4 of the podcast in the logo. That's all I'm going to say. It's not at all the same logo. It is nothing like the podcast logo, nothing like it. But I want you to go check it out because it's really cool. He did a great job and it is so me and I love it so much. So, okay, let's go ahead and get started with today's episode, Bipolar Disorder and Hypersexuality. I am really not excited for this episode, but we're doing it anyways. So before we dive all the way into the cringy details of my past experiences with hypersexuality, let's go ahead and discuss what hypersexuality is and what causes it. And we'll, start with the technical stuff from there. And just a side note for those of you on YouTube, you guys are in for a treat because I'm going to keep making weird ass faces like I did just then. I literally cringe, y'all. I literally cringe when I'm like thinking about some of this stuff, and you're going to fucking see it all over my face. So have fun. So I found this article on verywellmind.com written by Marcia Peirce titled The Connection Between Bipolar Disorder and Hypersexuality that says the following. Hypersexuality is defined as an increased need or pressure for sexual gratification. It can often be a symptom of mania and may also include decreased inhibitions or a need for, quote, forbidden sex. Hypersexuality is listed as one of the diagnostic criteria for bipolar disorder, so it's a common part of the disorder. So additionally, I found another article on everyday health written by Diana Rodriguez, and it was also medically reviewed by Allison Young, titled Hypersexuality and Bipolar Disorder When Impulsive Sexual Behavior is a Part of a Manic Episode. So, found a lot more information in this episode. So, all of the following is in this episode, in this article, excuse me. So, all of the following that I'm about to spill is from this article, which, again, you guys know, both of these and anything else I talk about will be linked in today's show notes. So it goes on to say it's not unusual for people to experience a heightened sense of sexuality during a manic episode. And while an increase in And while an increased interest in sexuality on its own does not present a problem, when the heightened sense of sexuality is paired with the symptoms of bipolar mania, such as impulsivity, risk taking, and poor judgment, the behavior can be destructive to many aspects of day to day life. Experts aren't sure why some people with bipolar disorder experience symptoms of hypersexuality and others do not. In general, hypersexuality is a symptom of hypomania or mania, and it goes with that particular mood episode, says Adele C. Vigera, MD, a psychiatrist at the Cleveland Clinic in Ohio. While there isn't a clear cut definition or criteria for being hypersexual, for a person with bipolar disorder, it means being more focused on sex and risky sexual behaviors than the person usually would be. What's significant is the change or difference from the normal behavior. People with bipolar disorder who are experiencing hypersexuality may have multiple sex partners, think about sex constantly, have one night stands, be very interested in pornography, notice a difference in their sexual behaviors, engage in other reckless behaviors such as driving too fast or gambling. So, all of that said, I found this topic super hard to research because there weren't many studies actually done on the link between bipolar disorder and hypersexuality. So, that was very interesting for me because I've never Googled this before. I literally just knew that hypersexuality was just part of my bipolar disorder was just part of my bipolar disorder, and that was that. And hypersexuality. I personally don't need a, explanation to what that means. Hypersexuality. I mean, come on. That's like sex on steroids is how I feel. I just kind of assumed all the things. Like I honestly never did any research until this podcast episode. So, that was, like I said, very, very interesting that there was not much done on it. I guess no funding, it just wasn't something needing to be researched. I don't know. I do know that in a lot of the articles I found, they kept saying sex addicted and sex addiction along with hypersexuality, which I don't agree with and I did not appreciate because they even said in this one I just read that hypersexuality is associated with a mood episode being either hypomania or mania. So if it's associated with a specific episode, then where does the word addict come into place? Because if I'm feeling balanced or if I'm feeling depressed, I'm not engaging in these behaviors. But I am when I'm feeling, hypomanic, then addiction doesn't cover that because addiction isn't only when you are feeling one type of way. Addiction literally takes over your whole life. It does. I know I've been there with my alcohol addiction in the past. So that's why I was kind of like, I don't like sex addict and sex addiction being thrown around so willy nilly in here. It just felt very, what's the word? I don't want to say degrading, but it didn't feel right. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel nice to be linked with an addiction when this was just a piece of the puzzle, not the whole goddamn puzzle, you know? So, I let's see. Okay, so a few of the other articles that I found, which again, all were pretty brief, and a lot of them focused more on bipolar disorder than on the hypersexuality aspect, which again was very interesting. But a lot of them stated that a lot of these clinicians who have done some of these studies, they're stumped because it's apparently really hard to draw a conclusive statement about the link between hypersexuality and bipolar disorder. Again, that's probably why sex addict keeps getting thrown out because they're just stumped and they don't know what to do. But I don't know. I feel like if you don't know, then you shouldn't just be throwing random shit around, especially if you are a medical professional. Like, I'm no medical professional, but I feel like that's a little like we throw shit around in my job all the time, but like we don't do anything that serious. So But I did find one more article on FHERehab.com written by Christina Robb Dover that is titled, "What is the correlation between hypersexuality and bipolar disorder?" So this article goes on to state the following. People with bipolar disorder often experience issues in relationships because of the changes in mood and behavior. Shifts in libido further strain these connections. Partners may feel undesirable if bipolar disorder limits sex drive. On the other hand, having too powerful of a sex drive may place a greater pressure on a partner. Beyond sexual intimacy within a committed relationship, hypersexuality can also influence a person's behaviors in ways that would damage their relationships. They may feel a compulsive need to watch porn or masturbate or sometimes do it in inappropriate moments. Oh, wow. Other behaviors include multiple affairs, anonymous sex, and frequent patronizing of sex workers. It's important to note that because of the chemical changes in the brain, a person is often incapable of thinking about the consequences of these actions. Okay, so I'm going to read that last sentence one more time. It is important to note that because of the chemical changes in the brain, a person is often incapable of thinking about the consequences of these actions. That sentence, that sentence by itself should be on every fucking article that talks about compulsive or impulsive behaviors from bipolar disorder. I have never read anything that just struck me so well like that one did. Like that right there, I'm like, "Thank you. Thank you." And any of y'all listening who have bipolar disorder, I hope you feel the same way because sometimes I don't think before I do. I just don't. And it's not necessarily my fault. My fucking brain is wired differently because of bipolar disorder. So, I'm not thinking about the consequences, I'm just doing something, which I do a lot. I mean, granted, I'm a lot better now than when I was younger, I used to do a ton of, but sometimes still to this day, I don't really think and I just do, and that can lead to some not so great consequences. But that's the thing, guys, is that a person is often incapable of thinking about the consequences of these actions. A sigh of relief, like, wow, somebody gets it. Somebody fucking gets it. So, this article specifically, I found to be very, very important to mention, not just because of that last line there, but especially because I'm about to dive into my past history with hypersexuality and all of these things that I just read kind of all fit into that little bubble. Okay, so now that we've gotten all of the technical stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and do what I've been not excited to do. And let's dive into my personal experiences with hypersexuality. And we're going to start from the very top, the moment it all began. So, back when I was in high school, a sophomore, the end of sophomore year is when I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 disorder, which you can learn more about if you go all the way back to season 1. I believe it's episode 3. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's episode 3. Again, I'll link it in the show notes. Also, don't make fun of me because that was 2020. No, that was 2020. That was more than 3 years ago. So if you do listen to that old episode, sorry for the shitty audio. So, not long after my diagnosis, I got diagnosed towards the end. It was like spring of sophomore year. So, the fall of junior year, I had gotten back together sometime over the summer, I guess, with my high school boyfriend at that time. And we went to homecoming together and lost our virginities in the back of his truck. And it was just such a fucking classy, non cliche thing to do. Sarcasm intended. So, with that, unfortunately, he broke up with me a week later, which was fucking horrible. It was really bad. And that moment is where I started spiraling, straight up spiraling. And I started doing some very, very self-destructive behavior and, engaging in a bunch of self-destructive things. Like, that's when I really started to heavily party and drink. That's when I found marijuana. That's when I found, you guessed it, sex. But I'd already found sex, right? I'd had sex with him, but that was a one and done, obviously, because he ended it. And so my viewpoint on sex was completely changed because I had sex with this guy that I thought I loved at the time, who I thought loved me back. And then a week later showed me that he didn't. So, I mean, a 16-year-old girl, first of all, you already have hormones and all the craziness of being a teenager, but then add bipolar disorder that is not managed well at or really at all, to be honest. The meds I was on at the time didn't do shit for me. So you're going to add all that into the mix and you're just like stirring up a chaotic brew of fucking chaos. Like that is what that was. It was the perfect brew to just start sending my life into complete chaos mode. I mean, I don't even know what else to describe it cuz literally guys, junior year is the year that I just started to tank. That's when I didn't care about school anymore. I didn't have any plans for college. I didn't care anymore. I just wanted to get drunk, have sex and smoke weed and just do whatever. I just wanted to live my life and I just wanted to feel good. You get that? I just wanted to feel good. So, when you are not taking your meds properly, when you're diagnosed with bipolar 2, when you already struggle with depression, and then this big thing happens, I went spiraling. And what was the first thing that I figured out that I could easily do? Well, especially if you're on YouTube, you can see I'm not ugly. So humble of me. I'm not an ugly girl. So it was really easy for me to meet boys. Wow. Also, I have a big personality and I'm not afraid to talk to strangers. Again, really easy for me to meet boys. So the first one that I got involved with, like literally the second guy I ever had sex with, it was revenge sex. And looking back, I feel a little bad about it, to be honest. I don't know if the boyfriend back then ever found out about this. Honestly, I don't give a shit anymore. It happened so long ago, more than 10 years ago now. Damn, I'm getting old. But I literally turned around and started having sex with one of his best friends because I was really hurt. And again, self-destructive. I didn't care that it was one of his best friends, one of. And guys, I just didn't care. I just wanted to feel good. And I learned really quickly how sex can make me feel good. So I started taking advantage of that. And again, when you're feeling depressed and you're feeling unloved at home, which is definitely something I struggled with. I didn't feel loved at home. I felt depressed. I felt rejected by this boyfriend. I felt so many negative things about myself that if a guy comes along, especially a cute guy, if a guy comes along and he makes me feel good about myself while we're just chatting, then if we have sex, I bet he'll make me feel really good too, right? Like even better. Yep, that was my thought process, and that's what I did with this guy, and it went on for a while. It did. It was a very regular thing, and God, I remember having sex in the back of his truck under, like, fucking in public places, y'all, like, under bridges in my hometown. There was a park that we would go to that was kind of, like, hidden in the back. We'd go have sex there, like, this is how desperate I was for sex, guys. This is hypersexuality. This is it full blown, and it's about to get worse. So hang on, because this is about to be a real fucking wild ride. So like I said, this guy, it was a very regular thing, but we weren't dating. We were literally just having sex. So I thought, okay, well, when this guy's not available, what am I supposed to do? Because I would text him or he would text me, and then that's how that would work. But it wasn't enough. It'd be like maybe once every other week or so. And again, somebody who needs it, I just need to feel good about myself and I just need to feel good. I need I need to get my fix from someone else. So that's kind of when I started, adding another guy to the mix or another guy. And there were a couple times in my life where I had like 3 or 4 guys that I was sleeping with, and I would hit one of them up, and if he was busy, "Okay, let's go on to the next one." "Nope, he's busy. Okay, try number 3. Great, I'll go to his house. We'll fuck tonight." That's how it was. And, first of all, I wanna stop and say, if anybody is judging right now, you can go fuck yourself, first of all. Because I'm sitting here and I am disclosing some very personal, vulnerable moments of my life, but also something I think that people really should work on understanding is that how can you sit here and judge me if you've never been in my shoes? That's what I would love to know. I get judged all the time, you guys, and I just don't care. I really don't care because I don't have enough time in the world to care. I don't. But for those of you who are sitting here and maybe you just can't fathom what I've gone through, try to put yourself in my shoes because I know I'm not the only one in these shoes. And I know that if I have felt judged by my behaviors, other people out there have felt judged too. Most specifically, women. Because if I was a dude right now talking about all of this, claps and praises all around because that's how it's been and that's how it's always been. That women aren't supposed to sleep around, but it's totally okay for men to. Which that double standard is actually probably the reason why most of my friends, towards the end of high school and definitely after I graduated high school, most of my friends were dudes because dudes didn't judge that I was going around having sex like I was. They didn't fucking care. A lot of them actually condoned it and praised it. So looking back, it kind of makes sense why I didn't have a lot of girlfriends. One, because I was probably getting judged all the time because of my behaviors. And two, right here, people with bipolar disorder often experience issues in relationships because of the changes in mood and behavior, which I do think that right there also had a big part in why I didn't have a lot of girlfriends when I was younger. So there's that. But going back to the story, now that I've already cussed you guys out for judging me, sorry if you're not judging me. I didn't mean you. But yeah, that's how things kind of got started. And again, I grew up in a small town. I grew up in a town of like 25,000 people. That's small. I live in Houston now, guys. It's like the third or fourth largest city in the United States. So my hometown was really small. And there's only so many dudes when a thing with a small town too is that everybody knows everybody. So eventually you kind of run out of people. And so when I moved to Houston, that's when things kind of got worse. And they got worse because I discovered dating apps and I discovered that there is a humongous pool of men I've never met before who live here in Houston. Some of them don't even live here. They were only in town for a while. Oh, and what's worse, some of them are on these dating apps because all they want to do is hook up with you and then go back home to their girlfriends. Yeah, that's something too that I had gotten wrapped up in more than once because of my need to have sex. Guys, all of this kept all of this was going on until I was about 24. So from 16 to 24, that's about 8 years of living in a state of like constantly needing to have sex. Like I would be at parties at my friends' places and I would be texting a guy or a guy would text me and I would leave early to go have sex. Like that's how obsessed I was with it at the time. That's how obsessed. I remember my old apartment when I lived back in my hometown. I had just moved out maybe 6 months prior. I had friends over for a party and I invited this guy that I used to sleep with. And he came over and we went in my room and just started having sex while everybody was out in the living room still drinking. Yeah. I mean, granted, we were all underage. Like nobody I think he actually brought beer, to be honest. I think he did because he was of age, but still. Like that's how bad this was for me, you guys. I did not care. I did not care that my friends were in the other room. I did not care that they were standing at the door, banging on it, making sex noises, laughing, joking, whatever. I did not care because I needed to have sex. It was literally like a high for me. It was like a high. And it was the easiest high I could get because even though I did, mess around with weed and recreational drugs and stuff, well, that's it. That's not even a drug. So back up. I never got involved with recreational drugs. I didn't quote unquote know better, but I never wanted to go down that path. I think that when it came to self destructive behavior, I think there was a limit for me. And that limit stopped at like sex with strangers and alcohol. Like that was like as far as I was willing to go. Because, yeah, one night stands became a thing where I'd meet people and just, sleep with them, didn't even know their name until the next morning when I woke up. A lot of this was alcohol induced too. Like I would go to a party and get drunk and then wake up and I'd be next to somebody and I'm like, oh, fuck. And then, whatever. And that's how my life was. That's how it was. And that is a complete difference from where I am now. Complete difference. But I wonder if like the hypersexuality part was more than just hypomania, right? Because so hypomania, you're feeling euphoric, you're feeling confident, you're feeling on top of the world, you feel great. So yeah, it's easy for me to walk up to a cute guy and, just be all self-confident and say whatever and then, go jump in bed with him. That was really easy. But I also wonder if sometimes during some of my depressive episodes, if I used sex as a way to kind of like feel better too. Like I'm feeling down, let's lift me up a little bit by going and having sex with this guy or something. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we'll ever know because what I will say is in 2019, let me back up. I turned 25 at the end of 2018. Christmas baby, so end of 2018. And then 2019, I was 25 that whole year. That was my year, like my revelation year. That's when I changed everything. I changed my lifestyle, I changed my friends, I changed my diet, what I eat. I changed that's when I stopped drinking alcohol. And that's also when I stopped having sex on the first date and when I stopped having sex with strangers. Yeah, seriously. And I don't think it's a coincidence that I, started taking care of myself and then stopped engaging in these destructive behaviors. I don't think that's a coincidence at all because ever since 2019, I have found myself in balanced places in life that I had not found myself in before. Like right now, I'm feeling a lot more balanced thanks to this new med, but this is a this is a part of my life I didn't know before 2019. I didn't know I could feel fine, that I could feel something that was not too high or too low. I didn't know that there was an in between. I had never known that before in my life. And when I found it, that must have been when I realized, okay, alcohol is not for me. Okay, sex with strangers is no longer for me. And also, that's when I realized that I wanted to settle down. I wanted to find a life partner, and a life partner is not going to sleep with me on the first date. He's not. So, another thing too that I want to point out now that we're kind of, we're talking about sex. I don't think I've said that word enough. So, sex, 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 sex. Sorry, not sorry. So, I do also want to point out something that I think is very, very important in terms of dating. So when I chose to no longer have sex on the first date and to not have sex with anyone until I thought I might want to date them, guys, that was hard. That was something that I wasn't used to doing. I mean, 8 years of just sleeping around, fucking on the first date, who cares, doing what I want. And then I decided, no, I want somebody who wants me for me. I want somebody who doesn't just want to sleep with me. I want somebody who cares more about me than my body and what I can offer. Like, I want someone serious. And when I decided to do that, first of all, I got off dating apps for like 5 months. I didn't get on dating apps. I didn't have sex with anybody. If somebody I knew hit me up, nope, you're out of here, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, so I just started focusing on only me. But then when I did go back to dating again, I had a rule that, I'm not going to have sex with them until at least 5 dates or longer. 5 dates or longer. Now, granted, Monish and I waited a lot longer than 5 dates, which we'll talk about at a later time. That's not for today. But it really did change my life in terms of, what I wanted and what I came from and what I have now. So I do think that my personal opinion, you guys, my personal opinion is that hypersexuality is something that is more often experienced when you are not properly managing your bipolar disorder. Because here's the thing, guys, let's get real here that if you don't manage your bipolar disorder will manage you. And when it manages you, you're you are on a one-way ticket or a one-way trip to self-destruction self-destructive city. God damn, I messed that up. Ugh. Yeah. So if you're letting your bipolar disorder manage you, you just purchased yourself a one-way ticket to destruction city. I messed up again. God damn it. Yeah. So that is why I think it is super, super, super important that not only do those of us who are diagnosed find the right med, that is super, super important. And I'm so grateful that I have a psychiatrist who not only got me on the mood stabilizer that I need, but also recognized that I need something more right now and that this something more is actually helping, which is phenomenal. But besides that, I think that we also need to work on incorporating routines and just trying to live a balanced life. Live a balanced life, you guys. That is so important. And by balanced, I mean like it's okay to have sex. I'm not saying you need to be celibate, but like maybe be a little careful. Maybe don't have sex with someone you don't know, or always use a fucking condom, or make sure you're on birth control, or whatever. Practice safe sex, y'all. Also, in terms of a balanced life and a routine, I personally have found that having a routine is what keeps me balanced. I work out every day. I eat healthy most of the time, like 90% these days. I read books, self-help books, I journal. I do things that kind of center and ground me. And a lot of that has to do with what you do with your body. So, movement and what you put in your body. That's a huge one too. I also stopped drinking sodas back in 2019 when I stopped drinking alcohol. And again, I don't think it's a coincidence that things have just, gotten a lot better when I started giving up bad shit. Or let me rephrase that. I started giving up shit that can be bad for you when taken in excess. Boom. That's better. Cuz it's okay to have a Coke every now and again. Like it's okay to have a Coke every now and again. But I was drinking Cokes literally like every fucking day, sometimes multiple times a day. I would go to Sonic and, their happy hour, get a 99-cent soda, whatever. I said soda and I say Cokes. If you're from the South, you know what a Coke is. That's a soda. If you're from the North, a Coke is a soda. I feel like this is a weird thing I'm explaining. So I'm just going to keep going and pretend like I didn't just stop to do that. But yeah, so all that said is, guys, hypersexuality is a thing. If you are struggling with that, or if you feel like this story resonated with you, that you are, very sexual, that you just feel like it's too much sometimes, or that, or you feel like you want to stop, but you're having a hard time. First of all, I definitely recommend that you speak to a professional. That's always going to be the first thing to do. Another thing that I think could be helpful, and again, everybody's different, so this is just coming from what worked for me, is come up with a routine and a game plan and find a friend to hold you accountable to kind of back yourself out of this and put yourself in something else instead. I started focusing a lot on exercise with Camp Gladiator back in 2019. So I was focusing on building muscle and losing weight instead of focusing on having sex. So like I replaced that. I replaced the good feeling from sex with the good feeling from working out because endorphins come with exercise and endorphins make you happy. And I fucked up Elle Woods' quote, but that's okay. Hopefully you still got it. So yeah. Also, I just wanted to point out that if this is something that has resonated with you, please know you are not alone. You're not alone, and that you're not the only person that this happens to, and that this is a topic that you can talk about. Find the right person, find the right professional, find the help that you need because I got lucky. Let me just stop and say I got lucky because I didn't get pregnant by any of these one night stands. I, in terms of STDs, we're not going to go there right now, but I didn't end up with anything crazy or serious. I mean, everybody's gotten the clap, so don't even. But that's what I'm saying here is that I got so lucky because so many really bad things could have happened to me. I could have been kidnapped. I could have been murdered. I mean, I was getting drunk and having sex with strangers. So many things could have occurred. So many bad things. I got lucky. But here's the thing I don't want you to continue going down this self destructive path because who's to say that you won't get lucky? Who's to say that you will get lucky? That's what I meant. Sorry. Who's to say that you will get lucky? Because somehow I got lucky and I don't want you to risk that because all it takes is one time of not being lucky to fuck up your whole life. And again, I'm very, very grateful that my life wasn't destroyed from all of these behaviors. But please, friends, please get the help that you need and find a way out because I found my way out. And I'm telling you, the grass is definitely greener on the other side. Sex is great. It is, but it's not great enough to keep doing with people who don't even know your name. So, all right, we're going to do win of the week really, really quick because we're about out of time here. So, I'm going to go, and my win of the week is that my friend Luis came over on Saturday to be my quote model for a promo video that I'm making for my YouTube. So I made a costume for Luis last year for Halloween. I made 3 other Halloween costumes, and that's one of my favorite things to make for clients. Again, besides my Etsy shop, I also do freelance design work, and costumes are my favorite. So Luis, I talked to him and he offered to be my little model, and I'm making a video to kind of explain the process. So that way I can hopefully grab some more clients this year in the Houston area who understand, what to expect when they're getting a custom made costume from me. So that's my win. It was super fun. Thanks, Luis, for coming out and doing that. I appreciate you. So, do you have a recent win that you want to share with me? If so, please head on over to whatisheybellsdoing.com/win of the week and send it on in. I want to hear, I want to give you a shout out and let's celebrate together. So, in the next episode, we are going to discuss my experiences so far with EMDR therapy. Yes, because I know some of you guys have probably been dying for me to finally talk about this topic. And so here I am, your fairy godmother, granting you this wish. So I hope that you guys are excited for this one. I'm finally ready to talk about this. It's been months and months of this therapy, but again, I'm finally ready to share. And so this will be a really good, informative, vulnerable episode. So tune in. But thank you for tuning into the show. Be sure to follow the show on Instagram and Facebook at distressthejoyful_Bailey's Way. And head on over to the website, whatisheybellsdoing.com, to check out show notes from this episode. If you enjoy this podcast, help spread the word by leaving a rating or writing a review, especially on Apple Podcast or Audible, because I really want to hear from you guys. And lastly, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date with all of the new episode releases. But until next time, take it easy, stay grateful, and be joyful. Bye.